Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Kevin McGovern live on a Sunday night from a remote location
I know, via satellite.
in the southern hemisphere of Asheville, North Carolina. But that's not stopping us because we have the internet from doing another Prove It Live podcast. Today's podcast is going to be about functional training in baseball, all the ins, outs, ups, downs, left, right, and everything in between. But before we begin, I want to introduce you to my very handsome co-host, Mr. Mike Ferry. Mike.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Kevin. So I am Mike Fury from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute. And I'm excited about tonight's podcast because it's something you and I have been kind of riffing on the last couple of weeks and some trends that I've seen that really didn't shock me. But before I get into that, I got to say two things. Number one, Asheville, North Carolina. Now, first of all, I didn't ask you this before we came on live. Like, nice place, right? It's supposed to be beautiful.
It's nice. There's like mountains and so someone said, you know how like when you drive down a street, there's rabbits everywhere. Like
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So here there's not rabbits, there's black bears. So
Really?
you're not going anywhere near a dumpster at night. Yeah.
Wow.
You may run into a bear.
It's like that up in the White Mountains up in New Hampshire.
I said, okay. So yeah, so I'm down here at Montreat College, which is an NAIA school.
Yeah.
Doing a 2-day camp with their 15 of their baseball pitchers. The pitching coach had we connected via Twitter or X. Because these guys are just, following the normal stuff, the drive line, the tread, the Tom House. And currently right now there's 4 guys out, one with the shoulder, 3 with elbows, and they're just tired of it. They're tired of recruiting guys and they're getting hurt. So, but they said the biggest challenge is going to be to change, because of you're overcoming so much because these guys are great marketers, right?
Yeah.
So everything the coach said is, are they going to listen? Are they going to listen? I said, well, hopefully I can prove it to them live. But, these kids are literally, it's almost like they don't even care about injury, that they're gonna this quest for whatever it is. So we'll find out tomorrow. But that's where I am. It's my lovely background, the Hampton Inn here in Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Awesome. Which is by Asheville, which is the home of one of my very favorite musical artists, Luke Combs.
Oh, okay.
So if you run into him, tell him I say hello.
Right.
So
I'd rather run into him than a bear. So,
yeah, well, he's probably bigger than most of them. So all right, so perfect segue, right? What I was going to say, just to react to what you said, is my guess is that some of the kids that are flirting with injury, like they got some pain or whatever, they're going to be more prone to listen to you. But where this is coming from, are they going to listen? And they're doing all the same things that everyone else is doing. There's this huge like cry for help out there. I don't want to be over dramatic, but there's like this real desperate like desire for training. That's what I'm seeing. So I talked about, some of the trends, and I've been talking to you, Kevin, about it like off the podcast, that I can't believe how many people are players, parents, families are in search of training. The travel team, AAU thing, pay you, seems to be waning a little bit. And that happens when you just flood some, not to call it industry, but you flood any area with abundance. That happens, right? And so there's within 5 square miles you'll have 4 teams now. And I probably said this before, but back when playing AAU in the late 1980s, there was like 4 teams in all of New England. None of them were around here. You had to go to I think the closest was like Nashua or Manchester, New Hampshire. So anyway, so Kevin, I've been getting a lot of kids coming out looking specifically for the training. Now, this is something in the past where we'd have players come out and maybe they weren't quite ready to be on a team yet. Like when we try kids out, it's not really, it is a tryout, but it's really more to see like where's their baseline? Can they kind of fit in at least closely to the kids on the current team, the kids in that current, and can I get them to where I need to get them to be? and in, X number of years to live up to my end of the bargain. And so we would get kids like that, and we'd have to sort of convince them, like, look, the team's great, and games are great, but you're going to get games anywhere. Come here for the training. It's the more important thing. It's 90% of what we're giving you, because anyone can give you games, right? I mean, anyone can give you a fancy uniform and put you in tournaments and whatever. It doesn't take any skill whatsoever, but it does take skill to develop players. And so anyway, but yeah, now they're actually seeking it out. And when I say they're seeking it out, I'm going to say that close to, I would put it at around 30 to 35% of their inquiries this year were for training versus training and team. And that's major. Like I don't think we've ever been above 10% until this year. So I'll put you on the spot.
Does that mean that they're not so 2 questions. Are they playing travel ball at another place, or are they just playing locally and want, I mean, it seems like probably a combination of both, right? I mean, basically they're saying that the product they're not getting better. I mean,
they're not getting better. A lot of these kids are coming from travel programs, and they decided, we don't care about playing travel baseball. We care about getting better. He wants to play, he wants to make his varsity team in high school. He wants to play in college. He or she, we actually had some girls too. And so, so that's what we're getting. And I think it's great. And, I'm not one to be like, and I told you so. It's so not me, but I told you about this. We talked about this, like going back to the beginning of the summer. I'm like, I feel this trend coming, and sure enough, it's coming to fruition. Why this is me putting you on the spot, like, because it's really just an opinion. I have mine, I'll share it, but why do you think that might be? I have my own opinion, but why do you think that?
Might be? A couple reasons. So one, I mean, I think that there's probably a little bit of a resurgence on the importance of high school baseball, right? Because for a while, right, everyone has been like, yeah, you don't need to play high school, but I think that that's making a comeback.
It really is.
Local town ball is making a comeback, and let's be honest, dude, like, every weekend, both days of every weekend in the summer is a lot, right? There's no family time, so these local leagues, Lou Tompkins and maybe a Legion ball, if there still is, they're playing during the week, right? They're playing Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, you can still hone your skills and show them off on Tuesdays and Thursdays and go away with your family on the weekend, especially now if you've got multiple kids playing maybe different sports, then your summer's ruined, right? If you've got your sister's playing soccer, you're playing, I mean, one parent's here, one parent, it's a lot. And especially at the end of the day, if you look at Junior and be like, Junior still has that hitch in his swing, he still can't throw strikes, he's not getting any better. Then I think that sends it over, like, we need to make a change in what we're doing.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head. I think it's too much. It's too much. And on top of it being too much, so not only do you have to be all 4 games, and most of these travel programs, they won't let you miss a travel practice to go play a town game. Right. They're 12 years old, right? Like, now it changes as you get older, but I don't want to get into that. But 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, even 14. They, so it's like, there's real strict. So they force you to go to practice, and then you're going to go in the weekend games, and there's no guarantee you're playing. And I've known stories like of kids sitting for, all but 3 innings in 4 games. And the families are going, we're missing our, time in our Cape House for this. We're missing,
camping trip.
Yeah.
Right.
Grandma and grandpa's anniversary party. It's become too much. And coupled with, like you said, there's no development. That's the number one thing I'm getting, is like,
you're doing all that time and it's not equating out. Like, hey, you know what? If he's X closer to getting a scholarship to play somewhere, okay, but that's not happening.
Right. If there's light at the end of the tunnel, like, all right, he's not playing, the team's pretty good, but he's getting better, and he's going to maybe, break into the starting lineup next year, whatever it might be. But that's just all good. And the strictness with the way that it's run is just crazy. So that was, we've talked before about, there's this weird thing with town ball, and there is, I'm not going to backtrack on that. there's this weird thing with town ball and people that run town ball. It's like, oh, we don't want any AAU people, breaking through our lines, you know what I mean? Because they're going to steal our players. But there's maybe some truth to that. And it's like, they're not stealing players, because whoever's going to play travel is going to play travel. If they want more than town, they're going to go do it. But there maybe is some validity to, well, when they go and play travel ball, they never make any of the games or practices for
Right.
town. And it's a bummer. And so, I mean, I've seen it in town. Like, my son's team, he does both, and he's had to, they've had to like pull kids from other teams to help out because, kids were away playing travel ball. So
I think,
Too bad.
I remember, and this is on the basketball end, which is again where I first heard the words AAU, right?
Yeah.
Growing, up, right? But like when we played in the summer, we would play for a high school team in the summer. So
Right.
say high school would have it in the boys club league or whatever. There'd be a summer league where you'd play all the high school, you wouldn't, the coach wouldn't be there, but but you'd have that. I mean, I think that could be the solution of having an extended, there should be a high school league that you play with, because it's not long enough, this 6 or 8 weeks that you play in New England for high school baseball.
Yeah.
It should be continued in the summer, but
I agree. Well,
something-
but the problem with Massachusetts, they won't let you.
I know it's the dumbest the rules in baseball.
Yeah.
Those are just ridiculous. But getting back to the training, it's, you have a lot of non-qualified people doing the training, and unfortunately, like you and I have talked about 1,000 times, I'm sure the 1986 Red Sox, you could do every one of their batting stances, you can mimic them. Kids are not out moving around, they're not out playing, they're in front of the phone, the video game, whatever. They don't learn basic movements, and when they do, it has to be an organized activity. If that organized activity you're being taught wrong, juniors got bad habits.
Yep.
And that's what's happening.
So perfect segue, right? So this led me to think more about, because something that I know, something that you've known, we've talked about for years at this point of, and again, and we're talking about the serious baseball player, right? So some of there's tons of kids that play town ball, little league, whatever. It's their third or fourth sport. They do it as an activity. That's what it's for in part, right? So the serious baseball player that wants to, like when we were kids, we knew we wanted to play as long as we could in this game, but had no one to really guide us, right? So talking about that kid, the training is so important, and you're right. So the more programs that there are, the more watered down and thinned out the coaching gets, and the instruction, more importantly. And so finally, parents, I think, are coming around, even players, to the importance of good training. Now, I know the importance of good training in terms of mechanical training, right? So, because you just hit it on the head, every swing that you take is a swing towards your permanent movement, right? So if you're you're repping it out at 200 reps and your swing's off, you're building that in the muscle memory. It's going to be harder to correct down the road. That's obviously, you don't want that. So from a mechanical point of view, I know how important the training is. How important is it for these kids? Because another thing that is going on right now is there's lots of unqualified people teaching like strength training, and how important is to have the proper training there.
Yeah, well, I mean, tomorrow morning I'm going to test 15 athletes. Every single one of them is going to fail my game test. They're gonna fail with flying colors, right? Which you don't have to study for. Basic movements, squat, lunge, some shoulder, they're all going to fail them. Yet 6 o'clock every day, guess where they are?
In the gym,
in the weight room, pumping iron on a bad, on a bad movement, a bad base. Okay. And, this isn't, I'm not assessing blame, but this is
right.
This is what it is, right? And then they're going to wonder, number one, not only why they're hurt, but their performance isn't going to get better. Like you just said, great point. One more swing. Okay. So one lift, you could think that, yeah, hey, I'm knocking time off my 60. And I could be like, no, you're actually going backwards because you're lifting wrong and you're really micro injuring yourself. And that's why. But dude, it's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Like, again, we're going to look at the NFL injury report. If you're a wide receiver pulling a hamstring, everyone should be fired. Okay. The only time you pull a hamstring is someone rolls into your legs. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You're running on the field, you pull a hamstring, the whole medical staff should be fired. That's what you do. You run, right? You should have that kind of flexibility, that kind of strength, that kind of ability to stop and turn. But it's just, I don't know what's going on, Mike. I don't like, I just see these. I mean, you know, not when we talk about pitching injuries, just position players with Tommy John surgery. Like, what?
That's on the rise too.
It's insane.
Yeah.
The Yankees just lost their last two essentially starting center fielders to Tommy John surgery. That's just insane.
So, it's interesting because to answer your question, I think it's the bigger, stronger, faster, right? It's like, I want to go fast as possible. I want to be as strong as possible. I want to hit the ball as hard as possible. So a lot of it is, right, the metrics. So now you watch any game on TV, every ball that's hit, for the most part, you're going to see what the exit velocity was.
Everything.
You're going to see what the spin rate was on the pitch and the velo and all that stuff, right? And so that's what it's the chase. And I think it's human nature that people want to kind of take shortcuts, not even shortcuts, but they want the fastest way possible to get there. And they don't, so people don't, I think, really have a fundamental understanding of what's important when it comes to like strength training, it comes to body mechanics, because we all know practice makes permanent, right? And I know there are kids that are just getting stuff offline, like they see Instagram. This isn't something but they just like see a program and they go, oh, I'm going to go do that. Yep. They just take it and go do it. Like no one there showing them how to do the movement, no instruction to how to do the movement. I mean, what do you expect? Of course, people are going to get, and by the way, and people are taking advantage of that. And
I would argue, and you've seen athletes that have come through training, your athletes. I would argue, and there's weights in my office.
Mm-hmm.
As a baseball player, you don't need to pick up a weight. I can give you enough things to do with body weight exercises, plyometrics, deceleration training, and more importantly, moving from one movement to another.
Right.
You don't need to pick, and I guarantee you're going to be a stronger player with less injury, because I'm working at it from a rehab standpoint, right?
Yep.
You don't need to be squatting 400 pounds. I'm sorry. You don't need to be benching. Baseball is not doing the squat, is because, as you have said many times, baseball is dead stop, full speed, half second, right? That's what it is.
Yep.
And I don't think the squat rack, and believe me, I am a Olympic lifting proponent when it calls for that, but I just don't think weights in baseball should be intertwined, because lifting 400 pounds doesn't help you go from 0 to 60 in 0.6 seconds.
Right.
It doesn't.
I agree. It's like, you look at, like, if you're a football player, fine. If you have to move another 250-pound human around, sure. The heaviest thing you have in baseball is 33 ounces. Mm-hmm. It's a bat. That's a 35-inch bat. Since Alfonso Soriano, I don't know anyone that's used that, right? So, but that's the high end. It's usually like 30, and a ball's 5 ounces. And I agree. And you look at guys like, if you want the proof, you look at guys like, Ted Williams, who's like 6'4", 180 pounds. Could that guy not hit a ball far? I mean, please. So I agree. Now, of course, and we both agree on this, just to make it clear, we agree that weightlifting is an important component, but you have to know the movements first. You can't go backwards. People are going backwards. They're, put as much weight on and push it or pull it or whatever as much as they can. Like, learn the movements first. And like you said, and we have a mutual player, right, who's now at college, goes to college, who, and you've seen him for a while. He's got a brother that comes in as well. And he's told me, he's like, I can't believe how much stronger I've gotten from doing these basic things without weights. He couldn't believe it. Yeah, without weights. And he has, and I saw him, I witnessed it. And so I think that's a real important thing is, so we always talk about, like, where are these injuries coming from? What's going on? Well, it's the same answer in both. It's poor mechanical training with strength training. It's poor mechanical training on the baseball side.
And prescription, meaning what we're going to do, right? What's the prescription and why, and the why are we doing it? And there's so much wrong with the why. Like, again, deadlifts and squats, even pitchers do. Like, how many people, and you've seen it, can say and do, right, can come in my office and squat 350 pounds, but cannot do a single leg squat, right? Which is
Yep.
off one leg and balance it, which is what a pitcher needs to do. But
Right.
they can, they could squat 350 pounds because the body is just circumventing, right? It's just and that's
Yeah.
why
It's using whatever muscles it needs to
they're not
get it up.
using the proper synergistic muscles. They're using because the body's always going to do what you tell it to do.
Right.
And that's why there's so many injuries.
Yeah. So what do you think? So, you and I are talking about, some programming for the very near future. And one of the things we talked about was having sort of a membership based program. And what's that have to do with what we're talking about? I'll tell you. What that has to do with is like seeing people continually is really important. So in most programs that are out there, and even mine in the past, right, to a large degree, for lots of the players, not everybody, they'll only sign up for training for 5 months, right? And it's like you're kind of on like an expedited program because you're like, all right, we got to get certain results before you hit the field and blah blah blah. And then a lot of those players, they don't really focus on training anymore once the season starts. And I get it. We talked about it. People are busy and et cetera. But having the kids who really excel and succeed, and for the most part, stay healthy, are the ones that we see, for if not a year, then we see them 9-10 months. And that doesn't mean they have to be going all out for a year. Kids need breaks. Yeah, they do. But they should still be able to come in late August, when our training program started in October, and pass every test. They should be able to move the way you want them to move. They should be able to know how to, perform a proper swing, a proper throw, etc. Mm-hmm. And so having a sort of like a member, and I think that's where this is trending. The desire, the want for training that just tripled from last year to this year, from what I'm seeing. And by the way, I've talked to people, other people are seeing it. And this desire to like be better, but the word's getting out, the healthy thing, right? Like staying healthy, getting strong the right way, I think is finally coming around. But how important is that to be able to see people continually, right? I mean, especially in your line of work.
Yeah, you have to have, like, I've seen places. First of all, number one, you need a supervisor there who knows what the hell they're doing. You can't let people, when they've got weights in their hands or whatever, go off to their own demise. Then
right.
If you're in a program like that and you're paying money, you're getting ripped off. Mm-hmm. Go to the Y for 1/10 the cost.
Yep.
But when we're talking about any kind of program, it should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, here's where we are, this is where we're going, and this is how we're going to get there. And these are the movements, this is the process. It has to have a plan, and that plan needs to be followed. It can't be just everywhere, or we're doing, here's the other thing, legs today, chest. If you're doing a program, we're doing legs today, chest today.
1988.
Get out of that program, because you don't go into the shed and curl the lawnmower, okay? Meaning,
speak for yourself.
When you cut grass, it's a whole body movement. The body moves as a whole. Every movement needs to be part of another movement, right? Like I might be working as a scene on squats, but they're doing other things to contribute to that basic movement, because yes, one movement flows into another movement. That's how the body moves. And to be a better athlete, what you need to do is you need to be able to flow from one movement to another and get rid of all of the excess preparatory movements to go like this from one move to another. Then you're an athlete.
How much do you think that's playing a role in injuries? Because it's such a great point. Because, and I remember this from like health class in high school. My health teacher back then was, he was like into kinesiology. I don't know if he had a degree, but he was like into it before, like even knew what that word was. Sure. He was a football coach. He was a little bit ahead of his time. And he used to talk about that and functional strength, the term functional strength, before it became popular. And he always talked about connective tissue, like saying that, look, if you're going to do one movement like this, and then another movement like this, well, that's not going to help you as an athlete, because you need the connective tissues to be, what's the word? Sort of like, They need to work in conjunction with the bigger muscles, and they need to be there has to be an equal strength in them to support one movement to the next.
One movement has to support and help the other movement, and vice versa. And that's why there's so much injury, because everyone's into the speed, the push, right? But the brakes are what causes the injury. When you brake, okay, it's much more complicated, for the movement to happen, because the contraction's got to come together and lengthen. Much more complicated movement to slow down. And that's why there's so many injuries, because we're going so fast and we haven't learned the proper muscle synergy, so that we go to slow down. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. And
that's why there's so many. That's why the hamstring, the groin, the quad, like, give me a break.
Yeah. And in baseball, we see it all the time. It's often the things that connect that are breaking, right? It's the ligament, it's the tendon, it's something that's not that muscle you work so hard to make big and strong. Well, you forgot about how it works, the synergy, and how it works in conjunction with the other muscles. And so it's not prepared to transfer from one move to the next, and something's got to give, and it's like that small muscle, right?
And speaking of that, go grab the last 50 people who've come back from Tommy John, right? From Chris Sale, grab 50. Luis Severino, and see what they went on the disabled list immediately after. Everyone goes back on the disabled list, right? Oblique, lat.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because their movement hasn't been corrected, right? And the body's trying to figure out, all right, what do I do with this new elbow? And like, everything hasn't been rebuilt. You've got to start at the reverse pyramid, one Lego block at a time. We get this one, we get this one, we get this one, we get this one. But everybody wants to skip ahead to the penthouse, and we got a sinking foundation. But I guarantee if you pick 50, I don't know this off the top of my head, but you pick the last 50 guys who've come back from Tommy John, I guarantee 70% of them went on the disabled list immediately after, within the same season, with a different injury. Not like, like elbow wasn't an elbow, but it was like an oblique. It was like a hamstring. Guaranteed.
It's such a good point. That's such a good point you bring up, because when something breaks, right, the immediate reaction is like, let's fix that broken part. When in reality, you need to fix the body. If the body's moving as it's supposed to, and is equally strong throughout, appropriately or proportionately, I should say, strong throughout, then injury is never going to happen anyway. Right.
It's like a car, right? You look at my tires are worn out. Let's change the tires. It's not the tires. Okay. It's the front end. It's the strut. It's the shock. Right. It's the uneven wear. The tire was a result of blowing your UCL, is a result of a bunch of bad things that are happening.
Yep. Absolutely. It's the same thing, like, treating diseases, like you treat that disease and the symptoms of disease, instead of saying, hey, the body was vulnerable, the immune system didn't work as needed, like we need to get overall generally healthy. We saw it with, that thing that happened a couple of years ago. We don't even want to say the word anymore, especially since we're on YouTube, but yeah, but no, I think that's really big. And my hope is, and I am more hopeful now than I was just even like a few months ago, that people are starting to finally catch on to this, and they're starting to see, number one, like, to take it back to what I started with, being on a travel team is not that special anymore. Sorry, it's not, right? So like the status of it, because let's be honest, that's a big part of it for lots of people. Right? Yeah. My little Johnny plays on a travel team. Like, okay, it's not that special anymore. You can buy your way into any one of those anywhere. Right. Yep. And that's, people are seeing that, and they're seeing, like, I can't believe we're spending all this money and all of our summer, and we're not allowed to do anything else, God forbid, if there's a travel team practice or game or whatever. And for him to play maybe half the inning, it's not worth it. And then because he's not getting better, and he's not, he's done with, those kids are done with baseball, sadly, before they even get a chance to try out for their varsity team. So I am hopeful that people are finally seeing that. So,
right. And again, this goes back to someone, if you're whatever program you're going to, has got to be able to put the pieces together, that the body is a bunch of moving parts, And all those parts, yes, are individual, but they all play a part in helping, you know, the glute helps the back extensors. It's, the old song, leg
The head
bone,
connected to the hip bone. Yeah.
right. So someone has got to be cognizant of that and making a program that takes all that into consideration. So it's not just supervising of being there, it's of having a program that makes scientific sense, not just handing the Excel spreadsheet and do this 3 times a week.
Right.
That's going to get you hurt.
Yep.
It's going to get you hurt.
I mean, you'd probably agree. You can get there, but you got to earn that. You got to earn that, right? So you have that person's going to be cleared by someone like you to say, okay, you've been working with me for 2 years. You know your stuff. You know what you're doing now. Here's a program, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw on Twitter, they had, the new thing is these water bags, right? And these kids are and they're smashing their spine, and all I put down, this is great. This is how effed up this world is. I put down, gee, do you think the coach that gave this drill out cleared their young spine from getting rotational injuries like this as they're smashing their facet joints? And again, here's a coach. Well, there's much worse they can do. Okay, so yeah, so they're not dealing heroin, they're dealing, dude, this is what I'm saying. This is out there. And I'm like, I literally put, dude, you have no business coaching youth players. Anyone giving you a nickel is getting ripped off. And of course, it was a pitching instructor, right? Top picture on his website. This. And I pointed that out, and I'm like, that's all we have to say about you. Is
Can
you're
you
a
imagine?
instructor and you have an inverted W on your website.
I mean, how many compression fractures, stress fractures, lower lumbar have I told you about in the last couple of years? It's insane.
And that's what you gotta understand. When you're doing this, do we need rotation? Yes. But when you're slamming this, okay, the facet, the joint, if you saw the bone, right? If you literally had gross anatomy and looked at the bone, that facet joint, you'd be like, oh my God, right? Like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing that, right? But here, we're slamming things, and they're, of course, they're not, I could see, you don't have to slow the video down for, half the move is that starts up here, not at their core. So I'm just like, oh my God, these kids are all going to hurt their back. Now, there was 1 or 2 crazy coaches, but then there was a whole blast. Oh my God, this is how my daughter got, SI joint problems. Oh my God, boom, 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 boom. But there's, the person who posted the video is a moron. The people who responded are morons. They're all training kids.
Yeah. And they're all passing the buck. That's the other thing too.
And defending this because someone saw it somewhere. Oh, you need rotate. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I saw Jose Altuve do this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. He's probably got 3 trainers with him, by the way, making sure he's doing it properly. But that's beside the point. That's the thing, the indiscriminate, like, go do this. I've witnessed it firsthand for years. So, maybe it's not a water bag, but it's like with mid balls, slamming them against the wall by themselves. And I see like they're rolling back. They're getting to the outside part of their pinky toe, right? They're turning their shoulders.
Guarantee, because I've never seen, it would be a huge anomaly to have any adolescent have a coordinated glute contraction, meaning, it starts at proximal to distal.
Right.
Everyone's going to have the bottom part, but not the middle and the top, which is the most important. I've never seen a kid, healthy, not healthy, have that. And now we're doing this, slamming these balls, slamming these weight balloons or whatever they're called. And this is what I mean. What is the purpose of that exercise?
Yeah.
Right. Because it looks cool.
It looks cool. Big leaguers do it. Yeah. And that's the thing. And this will make you feel strong because you'll be doing more of it in 3 weeks. If you do 10 now, you can do 15 later. But that's exactly it. So the message in all this is like, everyone that's more concerned with the training, we're starting to get it. We're starting to see it collectively as sort of like, the community of baseball. And I love it. Make sure you're in a program. I think you'd agree, where you have supervision and knowledge. It's so important, right? I mean, even knowledge by itself isn't enough if you're off doing it and no one's watching you. Make sure you're in a program where you're being taught to do it right. You've got the right knowledge and proper supervision. Otherwise, these injuries are just going to keep climbing like we see, literally year to year.
2 reasons to exercise. 1, stay healthy. 2, improve performance. And they're equal. If they're not happening, you're in the wrong program. That's it.
I'm with you.
Shouldn't wake up injured, shouldn't be pulling hamstrings. Just should not be doing that at
No,
all.
especially at the rate that we see now. It's just like no one can even deny it now. And that's the thing I was saying about passing the buck. That's the thing that stinks is these people are having these exercises done. The kid gets hurt and they'll point the finger to their baseball coach. Baseball coach will point the finger to the trainer will point the finger to the other coach. Oh, that's your high school coach did that to you or whatever. Like, dude, let's know what we're talking about before we start like slinging things against the wall. That's really important. Like kids' health and then their futures are on the line. I don't just mean to seem that dramatic, but it's important to a kid to play high school baseball and play college baseball.
Mike, how did someone get in touch with you?
All right. So there's the Farm BPI, of course, .com is the website. The Farm BPI, I believe, is also Instagram and X, not Twitter. And Mike Frary, F-R-E-I-R-E. Okay, not I-E. That's an old English adage. My last name's Spanish. Mike Frary, F-R-E-I-R-E at the farm, B as in boy, P as in Paul, I.com.
Nice. And I'm, of course, at perfectmotionsportstherapy.com. Also, the website of the show, proveitlive.com. Like us or subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and because that helps us out. And we'll see you again very soon. Thank you for listening to us.